We're about to start, so if anybody wants a sign or wants to come closer in the shot, you can definitely do that.
Until you speak.
Yeah.
Stand at the side. Thank you.
Okay, are you guys ready to go? Cameras rolling? Okay, sounds good. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. My name is Nardeen Keswani. I'm the founder of Within Our Lifetime, and we have been organizing for Palestine in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn for nearly a decade, and having an annual Nakba Day rally for years. Nakba means catastrophe in Arabic, and it marks the 1948 displacement and exile of over 750,000 Palestinians, 531 villages depopulated. To this day, the Palestinian people, the Palestinian refugees, the largest refugee population in the world, have not been able to return to our homeland. If you look around you, we have signs that say that we will return with the names of the towns and villages that Palestinians have been forced to be exiled from. And this does not exclude our community here in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn, which is one of the largest Palestinian communities in the entire country, in all of the United States. We have been organizing this Nakba Day rally for years to say that we want the right to return to our homeland in safety, in dignity, and in freedom. This year, it was much more somber and angering, considering that we are in the midst of a genocide of our people in Gaza. Over 40,000 Palestinians have been killed, at least 15,000 of them children, funded by our tax dollars, supported by our government, our politicians, on a federal level and on a local level. Politicians like Eric Adams has made his Zionist positions clear time and time again. And so we wanted to gather together as a community, as we always do annually, but particularly during this genocide, to make it loud and clear that we stand against this genocide, and it is our responsibility and duty to stand against our tax dollars, our complicity, our participation in this genocide with this government's support of it. However, this year, our neighborhood was invaded by the NYPD, who brought officers from all across the city and all units to terrorize our community. The violence that they unleashed was unprecedented in our Nakba Day rally's entire history, and showed the great lengths that the NYPD will use to defend the genocide in Gaza, along with Eric Adams and the city administration, and to ensure that we don't use our voices to call for an end to the occupation and the killing of tens of thousands of our people. The NYPD were documented committing the following acts: ripping hijabs off of multiple Muslim women. Shame! Shame! Ripping a woman's shirt off completely. Shame! Throwing protesters to the ground and punching them in the face, knocking one unconscious. Shame! Pointing organizers out in the crowd, targeting anyone wearing a Within Our Lifetime shirt. Shame! Breaking a community member's motorized wheelchair. Shame! Robbing protesters from the sidewalk in order to pull them into the street and arrest them. Shame! Placing protesters in chokeholds. Shame! Standing in the way of a moving crowd to intentionally antagonize us and prevent us from moving forward. Shame! They pulled a random woman, they pulled a woman who was not even part of the protest, a random woman, out of her car by her hair and arrested her before towing her car. Shame! They violently beat up a young black minor to the point where he could no longer walk, and they dragged him to the police van by his arms. Shame! So while our community is currently healing from the bruises and recovering from the trauma, the fascist mayor Eric Adams has gone on record saying that the NYPD did a so-called commendable job with their attacks. Shame! This is the disdain that the administration is showing to Palestinian, Arab, and Muslim community of New York City. The NYPD Deputy Commissioner Kaz Daughtry took to social media to try to paint us as outside agitators in our own neighborhood, claiming 36 of the 41 were not arrested were not from Bay Ridge or New York. But we know that this is a lie, and what actually happened was that the NYPD came into a community and became the outside agitator. That's right. That's right. Making us all unsafe. And we know that this is not new. This is part of the crackdown on pro-Palestine protests we've seen, particularly since January, on basic protest rights like using amplified sound and using the street to march, which is legally enshrined for the safety of large crowds that can't and should not be crammed onto sidewalks. We know that these orders for this crackdown come from the NYPD top brass like John Chell and Kaz Daughtry, who have been personally directing attacks against our organization and the movement for Palestine on Twitter and in the street for months. NYPD Chief of Patrol John Chell murdered a 25-year-old black man when he shot him in the back in cold blood. These murderers are the ones who are directing how they respond to us in our own community. Kaz Daughtry, the deputy commissioner, traveled to occupied Palestine, so-called Israel, with the mayor in August and has spearheaded expanding the NYPD's drone program that they brought here directly from Israel.
That's right, talk about it.
He took out his gun during the summer of 2007 and threatened to kill a man on a motorcycle. These killers, these trigger-happy cops who beat us up and attack us and pepper spray us in our own community are the ones who are being amplified and elevated and supported by this mayor, where entire communities of Palestinian, Arab, and Muslim people are being painted as outside agitators and being attacked in our own community.
Shame.
This is the NYPD leadership that are ordering the attacks on our youth and the Palestinian movement and the communities that stand in solidarity with us. And they have the audacity to say that we are the violent ones. We know that our neighborhood has been targeted by the NYPD for decades, most recently through the so-called demographics unit, created by the NYPD in post 9/11 to conduct mass surveillance on our masjids, community centers, and wherever elders, family, and friends gathered. The NYPD categorized us based on 28 ancestries of interest and cataloged and infiltrated where we go to school, where we pray, and everywhere our communities congregate. This program was supposedly dismantled by a lawsuit in the last decade, but we know these units change names with no accountability and no transparency, and they still conduct surveillance and repression on our community, particularly through the use of drones and facial recognition at protests. However, as we've been showing in the streets week in and week out, as we flooded all 5 boroughs for Gaza, we will no longer accept the NYPD surveillance. We created a report detailing the repression we've experienced, available at wolpalestine.com/resistrepression, not just to educate ourselves, but to use that knowledge in the streets to push back against their tactics through the collective action. We saw this on Saturday with the Nakba Day rally being one of the largest actions for Gaza in months, with over several thousand people. And we have supporters from that car in the back, so we'll let them know we see you guys. Despite the police violence which intended on shutting down the march before it even began, the march continued for several hours throughout Bay Ridge. Yes, free Palestine. The march continued for several hours throughout Bay Ridge. This has only taught us to be more unafraid and made us more emboldened to know our rights, to resist this crackdown on our streets, in our neighborhoods, and beyond. Thank you all for coming today, and I want you all to give it up to our next speaker from Majlis Ashura. Majlis Ashura is an umbrella organization that represents over 100 mosques and Muslim organizations all throughout New York City. And today our speaker from Majlis will be Ade Aluwo.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa barakatuh.
I bring to you all the greeting of peace. When the Muslims say salam, the Jewish people say shalom. It means peace. Islam is a religion of peace and tolerance, as has been displayed throughout history. Islam throughout history has been a religion of peace and tolerance. Today, I represent Majlis Ashura, representing over 100 different organizations in the state of New York. We gather here with heavy heart to address the deeply disturbing and unacceptable action by the New York Police Department during the Nakba rally on May 18. The law enforcement people brutally beat the protesters who are demonstrating for the values of justice and dignity, which we all hold dear. The Nakba rally was organized to remember the honor and the sufferings of the Palestinian people. And this year's rally was no different than any other one. The excessive force used by the New York Police Department against individuals exercising their right to peaceful assembly is a stark reminder of the challenges we face for advocating for human rights and justice. We unequivocally condemn the action of the New York Police Department and call for a thorough investigation of the incident. Accountability is essential to ensure that such abuses of power do not go unpunished. Furthermore, we stand in solidarity with the people of Palestine and Gaza. The struggle for freedom, dignity, self-determination is one that resonates with all of us. At Majlis al-Shura, we believe in the principle of justice, equality, and right to peaceful protest. We urge all communities to come together in support of this principle and continue to advocate for the right of the Palestinian people. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Thank you for Majlis al-Shura's continued support throughout our rallies and through other organizations that Majlis al-Shura represents. My name is Abdullah Aql. I am an organizer within our lifetime, as well as a community member, born and raised here in Brooklyn, specifically Bay Ridge. And my family made a living here as I grew up. And to be called an outside agitator by the NYPD, specifically by Deputy Commissioner Kaz Daughtry, is only to tell us one thing, that Kaz Daughtry does not know this community. We are from this community. We know each and every single person that was arrested. We know why they were arrested, whether it was for their skin color or for them saying La ilaha illallah, for them being Muslim, or for them being Arab, or for simply standing up against a genocide taking place in Gaza. It is clear to us that the NYPD does not stand with us. They stand on the opposite side of justice. They stand on the wrong side of history, and that includes the Deputy Commissioner Kaz Daughtry, that chooses to give orders during our rallies to attack organizers that are clearly visible wearing within our lifetime shirts and signs, and chooses to brutalize them into the street. And more organizers are going to speak about that brutality later on. But what's very clear to us, brothers and sisters, and to the members of the media that are joining us here today, that as members of the community are coming together, religious leaders and community leaders are coming together for this important moment, for commemorating 76 years of the ongoing catastrophe, we make it very clear that this is our neighborhood. These are our streets. This city is ours. And just like we can demand accountability for our tax dollars, we will demand accountability for where our tax dollars go locally as well as internationally. That while millions of dollars go to occupied Palestine to continue to brutalize our own people, New York as well is an occupied place. Occupied by the NYPD that continues to brutalize us throughout the streets of New York City. Whether it is on the sidewalks, on top of trucks, or right on the second floor of that apartment building, where SRG took the liberty of walking in and getting close to an apartment, ready to break in, just for some kind of amplified sound. And this shows us one thing, that amplified sound is a bigger threat to the NYPD than a genocide that has killed over 40,000 people. That is shame. And it's very clear to us that NYPD legal might need a legal lesson as well. That we know our Constitution rights more than they do. And even with this flawed Constitution, even with this flawed country that we are in today, we make it very clear that the roots of imperialism stretch from the United States all the way to occupied Palestine and all across the world. And it is our job here in the United States, being part of the diaspora, being children of immigrants, many of us with our parents have been displaced from these countries, it is our job to cut the tentacles of imperialism wherever they are. And that is our responsibility, brothers and sisters. And finally, it is important for us as members of the community to step up now more than ever. Step up at organizations, at protests, and anywhere it may come up to stand up for a free Palestine from the river to the sea, because we will not allow them to dictate to us what our words mean to us. Intifada is our language, and we will continue to use it by the ways that we want to use it until Palestine is free from the river to the sea within our lifetime. Thank you, everyone. I'd like to introduce our next speaker, joining us as the Executive Director of the Mass Youth Center, one of the largest and oldest institutions here in New York City and actually all across the United States that caters to hundreds, if not thousands, of youth every single year. I'd like to introduce Brother Malik Hassan.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May peace and blessings be upon you all. My name is Malik Hassan. I am the Executive Director of Muslim American Society Brooklyn. I'm here representing all of Mass New York and all of its 7 centers across New York. I'm going to read along a statement that was also signed by multiple organizations, including the Islamic Leadership Council of New York, CARE New York, Arab American Federation, ICNA, Islamic Society of Bay Ridge Community Development Center, and YM New York. On behalf of the community organizations that I've just mentioned, we strongly condemn NYPD's brutal attack on the Nakba Day rally in Bay Ridge on Saturday, May 18, 2024, organized by Within Our Lifetime. This annual rally was commemorating the 76th anniversary of the Nakba, the forceful expulsion of Palestinians from their homes by Zionist settlers in 1948. What had been a peaceful, recurring, communal gathering in Bay Ridge, New York City's largest Arab and Palestinian community, turned into an unprecedented violent display in this neighborhood of repression by police against peaceful Nakba Day rally attendees, leaving dozens of young men, women, and children injured and traumatized. Some protesters even sustained bloody injuries, and dozens were arrested in altercations incited by the NYPD. The violent crackdown on rally attendees was clearly premeditated by the IDF-trained NYPD to suppress pro-Palestinian advocacy in violation of protected speech of all Americans that all Americans are entitled to. Police arrived in droves hours before the rally to install barricades, to also park corrections buses, and set up choke points to aggravate rally attendees. Officers in high rank and white shirts were chasing down youth, smiling and pepper spraying them and punching them on the ground. Local elected officials have released statements describing the Nakba Day NYPD response as aggressive and unfounded. This aggression by the NYPD in Bay Ridge follows months of targeted, brutal, and retaliatory repression by the NYPD towards anti-genocide protesters, including during last week's Nakba Day rally at the Barclays Center and the Gaza Solidarity encampments on college campuses across the city. It has led to hundreds of arrests of young people, of our own youth at Mass in just the past few weeks. Such police brutality against anti-genocide protesters have been enabled by New York City Mayor Eric Adams and corporate billionaires' reported attempts to explicitly pressure the mayor to ramp up police aggression against peaceful protesters. Most disturbingly, a large number of the aggravating officers were seemingly Muslim and Arab, who appeared to smile and giggle as they unleashed, beat, and pepper sprayed rally attendees. We condemn their acts of unleashing violence onto who they claim to be protecting as their own people. We see them actively participating or silently sitting by and brutalizing our own people, including minors, youth, and hijabi Muslim girls. The deployment of Muslim NYPD officers is not coincidental. It appears to be a deliberate strategy to pit community members against each other, using officers who look like the protesters to enforce repressive measures. We all know of the interconnected nation of the brutality by the NYPD and the brutality of the IDF in Israel. We know of the interconnected nature of the IDF trained NYPD and the exchange of weapons and the exchange of tactics and the exchange of a mutually beneficial relationship of targeting and beating people of color and Palestinians.
Shame!
For too long, Muslim officers have been used as the NYPD's fodder to do their dirty work of surveilling and securitizing Muslim communities. And for us, we say no more.
No more!
Finally, we conclude the NYPD's violent response to Nakba Day attendees. And in particular, we condemn the Muslim and Arab officers who seemingly took pleasure in violently dispersing rally attendees. Many of those were Palestinian, Arab, and Muslim. We demand an end to the NYPD impunity that Mayor Eric Adams has maliciously constructed to protect his political interests, making a mockery of justice and accountability. We demand legal consequences against Mayor Adams and the NYPD for the police response to the anti-genocide protests leading up to and on Nakba Day. We call on the Muslim, Arab, South Asian, and all communities who believe in justice to carefully reconsider any coordination or any collaboration with the NYPD and its subsidiary organizations until there is real accountability for this transgressive, systemic, and illegal police violence. From the river to the sea!
From the river to the sea!
Palestine will be free!
Palestine will be free!
Palestine will be free!
Palestine will be free!
From the sea to the river!
From the sea to the river!
Palestine will live forever!
Palestine will live forever!
Palestine will live forever!
Palestine will live forever!
Thank you.
As you all can see, look how quickly our community comes together to protect and nourish one another. We just had a community member from Al-Aqsa Bakery, Al-Aqsa, which is in Palestine, passing out falafel and hummus to all the folks who are here as part of the press conference. It shows how tight-knit our community is and how we always have each other's backs. Whether you are Palestinian or not, if you stand up for Palestine, you may not be Palestinian by blood, but you are Palestinian in your heart. And to that, I would like to invite our amazing next speaker. They are a long-time member of Within Our Lifetime, have been organizing with us for almost as long as we've been an organization, and one of the folks that were brutally arrested in those viral clips that you have seen getting punched repeatedly while on the ground. Please give it up to Ange from Within Our Lifetime.
You can do it.
Good afternoon. As Comrade Nardine said, my name is Ange. I'm a lifelong New Yorker, a longtime member of Within Our Lifetime, and a proud Jewish anti-Zionist. Yes. On Saturday, I, along with dozens of others, were brutally attacked by the NYPD for the simple crime of commemorating the 76th anniversary of the Nakba and protesting the ongoing genocide in Gaza. During the protest, I was thrown to the ground, choked, and punched multiple times by Lieutenant Jon Farina of the 28th Precinct in Harlem.
Shame!
Footage that has now been seen across the country and around the world that has exposed once again the NYPD's brutality in defense of the genocide in Gaza and across Palestine. Sadly, I was just one of many who was brutalized by the NYPD when they violently stormed Bay Ridge on Saturday during Within Our Lifetime's annual Nakba Day rally. During this time, they targeted the largest Palestinian Arab community in New York City with indiscriminate violence. They pushed, grabbed, tackled, punched, pepper sprayed, beat with batons, and arrested women, mothers, teenage girls, minors, young men, and journalists alike. Muslim women and girls were subjected to having their hijabs forcibly ripped off with impunity. This level of violence was truly a reflection, as so many have said already today, of the fascist training and partnership between the NYPD and the Israeli occupation forces. And what did the mayor have to say about this? What did Mayor Adams have to say? He said that the NYPD did a commendable job.
Shame!
I'll tell you, from my vantage point on the ground, it did not look like a commendable job. All of this took place on the 76th anniversary of the Nakba in 1948, when nearly 1 million Palestinians were ethnically cleansed from their land, dozens of massacres, over 530 villages destroyed or depopulated. History, as Nardine has said time and time again, that is not taught in schools, that does not get attention in the mainstream media. And this is all happening yesterday and the day before and the day before that. And on Saturday, as the bombs continue to fall on Gaza, where over 40,000 Palestinians have been massacred in the past 7.5 months. As I speak, this very moment, Kamal Adwan Hospital is under siege and bombardment. Rafah and Jabalia continue to be carpet bombed. And just hours ago in Jenin in the West Bank, because the genocide is not only happening in Gaza, occupation forces murdered 7 Palestinians, including multiple students, a teacher, and a doctor. What we saw on Saturday and what I experienced is a testament, as so many have already said, to just how far the NYPD will go to defend the ongoing genocide of the Palestinian people and try to silence anyone who dares stand up against it. Since Saturday, it has also been brought to our attention that Lieutenant Farina served in the Marines as part of the genocidal U.S. occupation of Iraq that resulted in the death of over 1 million Iraqis. If Farina attacked me with such brutality, one can only imagine the violence he carried out against Iraqis during his tour, and the violence that he carries out day in and day out against black and brown people in Harlem near the 28th precinct. His profile on 50a.org, if you're not familiar with that website, shows a long history and record of abuse of authority, one that all of you in the media should be focusing not only for Lieutenant Farina, but for every last police officer who can be identified on camera. That is your job as the press, to hold them to account. You have the information, you have the resources, start writing about them and the details of not only what happened on Saturday, but what has been happening for years. For years. Sorry for yelling.
That's okay, that's okay.
In the aftermath of Saturday, the mayor and the NYPD top brass, as has been said, has tried to paint those of us who were arrested as outside agitators. I may not live in Bay Ridge, but to paraphrase Ghassan Kanafani, the cause of the Palestinian people, as Nardine just said as well, is not the cause of the Palestinians alone, but the struggle against Zionism, racism, oppression, and genocide is one that does not start or stop in a neighborhood or in one community, but it is the cause of all those who stand for justice and liberation and humanity. I may not be Palestinian by nationality, but I am Palestinian in my heart. I have been honored to be a part of Within Our Lifetime for over 8 years, during which time I've had the distinct privilege to participate in WOL's annual Nakba Day rallies, spend much time on 5th Avenue in this very community, attending and participating in cultural and educational events at local community centers and youth programs organized by Within Our Lifetime, to eat in the amazing restaurants along 5th Avenue, including Al-Aqsa Bakery, which we were so lucky. It's so fitting because I was going to mention Al-Aqsa. So, and the hospitality is unmatched in Palestine and also in Bay Ridge here on 5th Avenue. I have been welcomed into this community and to the Palestinian struggle for liberation, and it is the honor of a lifetime, truly. This is something that Mayor Adams and NYPD Deputy Commissioner Kaz Daughtry, if you're listening, and the entirety of the NYPD, this is something they do not have the capacity to understand, and they never will. I am still a bit shaken up after what happened to me on Saturday, but my head is held high, and I want to close out with a very simple message to anyone who might be listening. Whatever we go through here in the belly of the beast, around the world, the repression that people are facing right now for standing up against this genocide, we have a simple message. We will not stop centering Gaza. We will not stop fighting for Palestine. And we will not stop resisting this insanity until liberation and return from the river to the sea within our lifetime. Thank you.
As you all heard and many have experienced, our annual Nakba Day rally is always a family-friendly rally and march, and this year the NYPD wanted to intimidate families from coming out and bringing out their children. That is why they stationed correction buses earlier in the day. That is why they brought out barricades the night before for the first time in this rally's history. But the mothers and the children and the families of our community are not afraid, because they understand that while they care for their children here, there are 15,000 children who have been killed in Gaza. And there are tens and hundreds of thousands of children more who continue to suffer starvation, malnourishment, who continue to suffer disease and no shelter as a result of this genocide. And so I would like you all to give it up to our next speaker, Nisreen, the founder of Mamas for Palestine.
I wasn't scheduled to speak, so I was just put on the spot. So I'm going to speak my truth. Growing up, I was told that this country is a melting pot, and that's what makes this country so democratic and amazing, that different cultures get to come together and experience each other. But growing up, that's not what I got to experience. Growing up, I felt that I always had to prove how American I was. I wasn't able to embrace my culture, embrace my religion. Palestine was made as a joke, or are you from Pakistan, you're Israel. So we had to just kind of put it off to the side and just constantly prove how American we were. And I've been passive and I had low self-esteem growing up all my life because of that. And then as a mother, I never taught my kids hate, and I taught my kids to never bully anyone based on their ethnicity or their religion, especially never as any Jewish people, because we're all from the Abrahamic religions, and we all respect each other, because that's what Islam is about. We respect the life of human beings, which is unlike the Zionists, what they teach their children. But so I brought my kids out on Saturdays. I've been doing for years. People always bring out their families to celebrate our culture, our heritage, our history, because we will never forget, and we pass it on from generation to generation. As we're born, we all know the history. It's embedded in our DNA. But this Saturday was a completely different look. As soon as I hit the street, I saw cops with their batons out in a look in our eyes that was very intimidating. They had the zip ties ready, but I still had my kids out. I had one of my daughter's friends come running up to me crying, and I said, "What happened to you?" And she said that she was filming one of the NYPD officers choking a journalist to the ground, and the NYPD officer pushed her, and we have clear footage of it. And I went up to the captain and I said, "One of your officers pushed this minor. What are you going to do about it?" And he just shrugged it off with a smirk and walked off. Later on, we found out that another girl, 15-year-old, was assaulted with full clear footage that we could share. And also, she was arrested for simply holding a megaphone. Shame. So I don't need anyone to tell me stories. I saw it with my own eyes. I filmed it with my own camera. And constantly through the night, people were sending me more and more footage. And even though I was there, it just became more and more disturbing and more sickening. But as I had my daughter there, and I had her friend that was shaking and very shaken up, especially after seeing the hijabis with their hijabs off, as their friends are hysterical saying, "Please put her hijab back on," and the cops shrugging it off and laughing, I told these girls, you are never going to be afraid the way my generation grew up, being afraid of being Palestinian, being an Arab, being a Muslim. I'm not going to stop bringing out my kids, and you're not going to stop coming out. We're going to come out week after week, and our numbers are going to continue to grow, and it shows since October 7th, our numbers have only grown, our diversity has grown, and obviously just from a visual picture, when you see out the Zionists, and you see white supremacists, and you see our side with a sea of diversity of religions and ethnicities, you can tell who's on the right side of this. So to all the mothers, we're not going to stop bringing out our kids. That tradition of being afraid, being kept under the radar that we are raised, those days are over. And at Mamas for a Free Palestine, we say a mother's love transcends borders, because we believe whether you're down the block in Bay Ridge or you're across the world in Gaza, you should open your heart and bear the pain of the mothers of Gaza, and you should see your children in the eyes of those that are dying. And if you're not, you're clearly inhumane and you're unfit to call yourself a parent. And that's not what we're teaching our kids. We're teaching our kids to stand for justice and humanity, and we will no longer be afraid, and we're going to keep continuing fighting, and NYPD is not going to intimidate any of us.
As you all heard multiple stories of women having their hijab ripped off. I'd also like to tell you about one of our own members who is a lawyer who went up to someone who was being arrested to invoke their rights for them as their lawyer, as her legal right to do so. And she also had her hijab ripped off and was not allowed to put it back on. So this is happening to everyone, old and young, whether you're a lawyer, a community member, whatever you are. They were attacking us indiscriminately, and these same police officers, the captain that Nasreen just mentioned, was seen on footage putting his foot out to intentionally injure and trip protesters. And so, you know, this is an attack on our community. As you've heard, many have sustained medical injuries and was bleeding from the side of his head in those photos and videos that you saw. And thanks to the work of organizations like Healthcare Workers for Palestine, who had medics on scene at the protest and medics on scene at Foley Square after arrestees were released from one police plaza, we are able to protect our community and keep our community safe. So I would like you all to give it up to our next speaker, Enes, from Healthcare Workers for Palestine.
Assalamu alaikum. I am here today as a member of Healthcare Workers for Palestine to describe the heinous NYPD attacks we saw against the Bay Ridge community, the community I grew up in. What we saw was indescribable. People being dragged in handcuffs or zip ties, unconscious. People being stripped of their clothes. People with clear, severe injuries, bleeding and screaming in pain. And when we spoke out against these brutalities to the sergeants wearing the white shirts, we were told to shut up. We're always told to shut up. We are told we can't help. We are dismissed by the NYPD time and time again. Let us remind the NYPD that our members have spent their lives learning how to save people. They have spent their lives learning how to save people. And while we're saving people, they're brutalizing them. They're making our jobs harder. Explain to me why we are waiting to heal these people at jail support. Explain to me why healthcare workers are waiting desperately to triage the people coming out of jails because they refuse to let us treat them while they're hurt.
Shame.
We have to send these people straight to the ER because of their head injuries. Healthcare workers are still treating patients from not just the Bay Ridge protests, but the protests from before. We are seeing them every single day in the ERs because these injuries that the NYPD are inflicting on them, it's not just a one-day solve. So, we are here, healthcare workers, to tell everybody that we cannot be healthcare workers if we don't stand for Palestine, if we don't preserve lives. People are dying every single day in Palestine. People are being brutalized by the IOF, by the NYPD, and we promise to show up every single time. Every single time. And we wanted to leave you guys with the message. Nirdeen, Abdullah, Fatima, and every single Palestinian organizer and every single Palestinian supporter who shows up on the streets, know that healthcare workers stand with you. We stand with the Within Our Lifetime organization, and we promise to show up and heal and save lives, not like the NYPD. Thank you.
As you have heard, people have been suffering serious injuries, including multiple reports of concussions after being tackled and arrested by the NYPD, including someone who had previously suffered a concussion when arrested at the CUNY Gaza Solidarity encampment, who also had his head bounced off of the concrete on Saturday at our Nakba Day rally. So today, for our next speaker, I want you all to give it up to someone who was at the CUNY Gaza Solidarity encampment, who viewed the brutality of the NYPD over there. This did not start on Nakba Day, and this did not start on October 7th either. We know that the NYPD have been brutalizing different communities, particularly the black community, brown communities, people of oppressed backgrounds and nationalities for years. And this is not new to our Palestine protests either. So please give it up to our next speaker, Jihad, from the CUNY Gaza Solidarity Encampment.
Assalamu alaikum. We are here today to discuss the NYPD, aka the outside agitators, storming and invading our neighborhood the same way the Israeli occupation forces stormed Jenin camp, Gaza, Tulkarm, Nur Shams camp, Nablus, and all of Palestine. They invaded our neighborhood, Bay Ridge, which is a diverse community uniting on Palestinian liberation. We occasionally hold protests for Palestine in Bay Ridge, but never have we seen issues like we have seen recently. Until after October 7, until the resistance in Gaza woke up the world and shook the Zionist entity to its core. Ever since then, social media, the United States government, and our own city and its institutions, such as the NYPD, ever since then, they went on a rampage to suppress what's going on in Gaza, to censor our actions and all that we do for Palestine. They aim to change the pro-Palestinian narrative. They aim to characterize us as barbaric. But in fact, it is the NYPD who is barbaric and dangerous. It is they who operate under a barbaric system that is protecting U.S. imperialism, Zionism, and oppression wherever it may be. We have seen this dangerous behavior with our own eyes across the entire city, across all universities in New York City who participated in encampments for Gaza, even in CUNY and CCNY, where we had the Gaza Solidarity Encampment for Gaza. We have seen this with our own eyes as the NYPD brutalized all those who were in the encampments. In FIT, the new school, in Columbia and NYU, the same thing. Students were pepper sprayed and choke slammed to the ground. These are students paying for tuition to attend these institutions, and yet they're treated with police brutality. They're beat to the ground with broken teeth left on the floor. So of course, at the same time, I want to say, of course, not all of these people who attended the encampments, not all of them were students. But so what? You don't have to be a student to stand for Palestine within the university. There's no such thing as outside agitators. The only outside agitators are the NYPD. So we understand at the same time that the fight for Palestine is not just for Palestinians. It's the fight for every revolutionary, wherever you may be. It's the fight for all those who seek liberation from the Zionist entity, and their fight in Palestine goes hand in hand with our fight in America against U.S. imperialism in the belly of the beast in New York City. After all, the mayor himself, he said when he retires, he wants to live in occupied Palestine, in the occupied territories in Golden Heights. So we know where they stand. It is no surprise that Zionist billionaires fueled him and urged him to sweep the encampments and severely crack down on Palestinian protesters. So we know where they stand. They stand in the way of Palestinian liberation. They stand in the way of the entire world standing up for Palestine wherever they may be. So I want to reiterate, since day one, the people of the encampments, we have been met with severe police brutality. Since day one, the NYPD was looking to instigate violence against our students, and they arrested many of us. Protesters were left with concussions, broken ribs, and broken ankles and broken teeth. Blood and broken teeth were literally left on the ground as protesters were sent to one police plaza. With that being said, we demand a complete drop to the charges against all those who participated in the encampments, including the 28 protesters who were charged with felonies. We demand a complete drop to these charges. Because why were they arrested? They were arrested for protesting a genocide. For protesting a genocide since 1948. For protesting the massacres in Gaza that continues right now. Where over 40,000 are dead. But the NYPD chooses to arrest us instead. So the same tactics that we've seen in the encampments across New York City are the same tactics we've seen the other day in Bay Ridge in the Nakba rally. And it's the same tactics we see back home in Palestine that the IOF used against our people to brutalize and ethnically cleanse Palestinians in Gaza. And it's the same tactics the NYPD uses. So we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow the NYPD is going to do worse than what we've seen the other day. What is happening in Gaza, if we don't take a stand to end what is happening in Gaza now, it's going to happen to us tomorrow. So we know where the NYPD stands already. But my message now is to the Muslim community who continues, not all of them. Alhamdulillah, we have many Muslim organizations who stand with Palestine and who took a harsh stance against the NYPD. But to all those who continue to cooperate with NYPD, what are you doing? Where is your support for your Muslims and brothers and sisters in Gaza? Where is your support to the masjids being bombed in Gaza? Where is your support to the Muslim hijabis who had their hijabs ripped off the other day in Bay Ridge by the NYPD, who some were even Muslim police officers doing this? Where is your anger towards the NYPD, who has an office in occupied Palestine? An office over land that belongs to Palestinians. So the NYPD, without a doubt, they are directly complicit in the ongoing land theft and genocide in Palestine. It's not just an institution. They're not protecting people. They're brutalizing our people here and back home. So I want to also reiterate that the NYPD, as they don't serve us. They are serving U.S. imperialism. They're serving this city and they're serving Gaza. But we will continue. They're serving U.S. imperialism and Zionism that is brutalizing Gaza. Shame. But us, we serve Gaza. We serve Gaza, and no matter how many they brutalize, no matter how tough situations we'll get, we will be out here in the streets. This will not scare us. We will come out here stronger with more strength and determination to resist until victory. And what is happening to us here is not even a fraction of what Gaza is going through. Gaza is the only reason why we are here. And it is why we will continue to show up. And what is happening will not slow us down. It will only fuel our rage. And we will direct that rage against all those standing in our way of complete Palestinian liberation. If our resistance has not given up, if Gaza has not given up, we too will not give up, and we will not slow down. We will not stop until every inch of Palestine is liberated. Thank you.
As you all can hear, almost every single car that passes by honks in support. There are Palestinian flags hanging down from the roofs of the buildings in this neighborhood. You have a Palestinian mural behind you that you can see. So clearly this community supports Palestine unequivocally. And they always have, and they always will. So for the NYPD to come in here and attack us in the name of so-called safety is absolutely ridiculous and needs to be condemned. We don't need them at our rallies. When Zionists come and attack us and push us and curse us out and tell us that they want to create another Nakba, all NYPD does is protect them. When they come to our own rallies, that's what they do. They should be working to get them away from us instead of working to brutalize us. Since October, the NYPD has spent over $54 million policing Palestine protests alone. What could that money be used for?
Healthcare.
Kids in Bay Ridge can't go to the libraries on Sundays because libraries on Sundays are closed. Because the city doesn't have a budget. Doesn't have a budget to open libraries. Doesn't have a budget for proper health care. But they have a budget for over-policing rallies. They have a budget for brutalizing our community members. $54 million, and that's just what they reported. We know that the number is a lot higher, and we know that number is going to grow when the NYPD is served with lawsuit after lawsuit, class action after class action for all the attacks they put on our community. But still, that is not enough accountability. Because that money doesn't come out of their own pockets. No. They're not affected by it. It comes from the city. It comes from my tax dollars. It comes from your tax dollars. They claim that they are here to protect hardworking, tax-paying Americans. by clearing the roads for them. We are the hardworking taxpayers, and we don't want our tax dollars going to kill our family in Palestine, and we don't want our tax dollars going to police officers to attack us here.
Yep.
And so it's important to remember that we demand an end to the brutalization of our communities. We demand an end to the draconian implementation of ridiculous laws that are not even applied correctly, that prevent us from using amplified sound, that prevents us from marching in the street. The only way you can get a permit for marching in the street is if it's a parade permit. But we're not having parades while our people are being killed. So we do not get permits, and we call on all of those who are organizing protests across the city to not work with the NYPD. Do not get permits from them. Do not legitimize them. They will attack you whether you get a permit or not. We call on Muslim and Arab police officers to turn their badges in, to quit their jobs, to not stand with an institution or work for an institution that surveils, oppresses, and represses their very own community. We call to drop all the charges on protesters, not just from Nakba Day, but from any Palestine protest. And we call on all of those who come to protest moving forward to remember that we stand together, that when we are attacked and arrested, we will be there outside of one police plaza for you. And to the NYPD, if you think that attacking us, if you think that brutalizing us and arresting us is going to stop us from speaking out, you are making the biggest mistake that you can ever imagine. Because every time you attack one of us, another 10 become leaders. The people who were arrested were some of the kindest hearted people ever. They get arrested because when they see the NYPD rushing to attack Muslim women, they try to help them get out of the way. That's why they are arrested. One of the folks who was arrested actually just came back from a medical mission to Gaza, risking his life in the midst of genocide, in the midst of Israeli bombs and bullets, to go to Gaza and provide urgent medical care for children. He was in Gaza just a few weeks ago. And when he came out in support of Palestine in Bay Ridge for this Nakba Day rally, he was arrested here too. So when you look around, when the press comes here and wants to put us on the news because we were attacked, we remember that we are not victims. We are powerful. There's a reason they attack us this much and arrest us this much. It's because what we're doing is working. There's a reason they spent over $54 million on our protest since October. It's because we are powerful. And what we do is working, and it is making a difference. And Biden is shaking in his seat, afraid that he is not going to be elected because the youth of this generation call him Genocide Joe and stand against this genocide. He is the oldest president in American history. And majority of the youth in this country stand in solidarity with Palestine. So time is on our side. We will be avenged. But that's not what we care about right now. We know that history will absolve us. We know that history will avenge us. But we know right now, every second matters. Every minute matters. Because every second, every minute, another child, another mother, another father, another brother, sister, family member in Gaza is getting killed. It's catching a disease. It's getting a limb amputated. It's becoming traumatized for life. So we can ignore what they do to us for now on some level and still come out here, but we cannot ignore what is happening in Gaza, and we will continue to come out every single time. I want everyone who joined us here today to let everyone hear how loud we are. Up towards me. Everyone else come behind the banner, and we're going to chant together. together for Palestine. Come up as much as possible. And everyone behind. Sorry, can I get a water bottle?
My community.
Come behind on the side.
You guys can move up a little bit more.
So everyone come behind so they could see our numbers, our power, our strength together. And I want everyone to repeat after me. From the river to the sea.
From the river to the sea.
Palestine will be free.
Palestine will be free.
We will free Palestine.
We will free Palestine.
Within our lifetime.
Within our lifetime.
Resistance is justified.
Resistance is justified.
People are colonized.
When people are colonized.
Gaza, Gaza, you will rise.
Gaza, Gaza, you will rise.
Palestine will never die.
Palestine will never die.
Gaza, Gaza, you will rise.
Gaza, Gaza, you will rise.
Palestine will never die.
Palestine will never die.
Eric Adams, you will see.
Eric Adams, you will see.
Palestine will be free.
Palestine will be free.
Eric Adams, you will learn.
Eric Adams, you will learn.
Refugees will return.
Refugees will return.
There is only one solution.
There is only one solution.
Intifada revolution.
Intifada revolution.
Intifada, intifada.
Intifada, intifada.
Long live the intifada.
Long live the intifada.
New York to Gaza.
From New York to Gaza.
Globalize the intifada.
Globalize the intifada.
Beirut to Gaza.
From Beirut to Gaza.
Globalize the intifada.
Globalize the intifada.
40,000 people dead.
40,000 people dead.
They're arresting us instead.
They're arresting us instead.
40,000 people dead.
40,000 people dead.
They're arresting us instead.
They're arresting us instead.
40,000 people dead.
40,000 people dead.
NYPD's hands are red.
NYPD's hands are red.
40,000 people dead.
40,000 people dead.
Joe Biden's hands are red.
Joe Biden's hands are red.
Genocide Joe has got to go.
Genocide Joe has got to go. Genocide Joe has got to go. Genocide Joe has got to go. Genocide Joe has got to go.
Israel, you can't hide.
Israel, you can't hide.
We charge you with genocide.
We charge you with genocide.
Joe Biden, you can't hide.
Joe Biden, you can't hide.
We charge you with genocide.
We charge you with genocide.
Israel, what do you say?
Israel, what do you say?
How many kids did you kill today?
How many kids did you kill today?
Joe Biden, what do you say?
Joe Biden, what do you say?
How many kids did you kill today?
How many kids did you kill today?
All right, give me 1 second, guys. So that wraps up the press conference here in Bay Ridge. I'm going to have to wrap this up pretty quickly because I have to get to Jordan and I will be live around 6 p.m. At a Cornell West rally. We're going to be interviewing Cornell West, and then he has a rally. Hold on, I'm trying to work this out here. All right, so real quick, because I gotta run. So that was the press conference here with the organization Within Our Lifetime. As you heard, they were brutalized on Saturday. We have the footage to show the proof. The evidence is there in our footage, in our live stream. Go check out those videos. You'll see protesters were punched on the ground. They were bleeding from their head. You heard what they were talking about. So really quickly, I was given this report here by a lawyer. He's a former detective, I believe. He was in law enforcement. He's a lawyer now. But here's the. Jordan and I are gonna go through this later, and maybe we could talk about this on the live. But basically, NYPD officers, were wearing helmets that took part in the beating up the protesters on Saturday. They were wearing helmets with fake badge numbers. So the guy that gave me the report, his name is Jack. We'll read this again, but basically he's showing that all these badge numbers that are on these helmets, how the way you're supposed to identify an officer through their badge number, they were wearing. So shield number, like for instance here. So it says, this is just one example, shield number 25480 is not assigned to anyone. So you could actually type in 50a.org. You could type in an officer's name and badge number and find out, what allegations they have towards them and misconduct and stuff like that. So he did this whole report. He said he went through like 16 hours of footage just from Saturday, I believe, Saturday's protest. Also, it says here, even on their shirts, they were wearing badge numbers that did not match what their helmets were, the numbers that the helmets had on. So we're going to go through this. I didn't have a chance to go through it fully, but this is a really, really important documentation. I have the guy's card. Hopefully we can get him on to do an interview about this. But like I said, we'll talk about it more later on the next live stream. We're going to be live at 6 p.m. Interviewing Cornel West and his presidential rally in Harlem. So make sure you are subscribed to our channel so you get those notifications for when we go live again. Yeah, go check out the videos of what happened Saturday. It was just brutal what NYPD did. And something that I noticed was that it was mostly the white shirts. So the white shirt officers are the captains, the chiefs. Sorry for the close-up shot here. So the white shirt officers are the ones, they usually don't get involved, but Saturday they were the ones instigating everything and attacking people. You could see in some of my footage that a lot of the officers that were wearing the blue uniforms did not want to go in and start brutalizing protesters and making arrests. The white shirts they were like, come on guys, like trying to amp them up to do it. So the white shirts, the captains, the chiefs were the aggressors that day. But we'll get into some more of that maybe later or tomorrow. But yeah, I gotta get going because I gotta start driving. So make sure you are subscribed so you get the notification for when we go live again. Again, 6 p.m. Eastern, we'll be live interviewing Dr. Cornel West.